Welcome to the Sound of Ideas from IdeaStream Public Media. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for being with us. Graduation season is upon us. Last year's class of 2025 was the largest graduating class in U.S. history, as more than 3.8 million high school seniors and 2.1 million college seniors walked across their respective commencement stages, ready to start their next adventure. For this year's graduates, that next adventure will take place against an uncertain backdrop. Expectations are being shaped by a tough job market with high unemployment, high cost of living, and the threat of artificial intelligence disrupting what previously might have been exciting entry-level opportunities. Today on The Sound of Ideas, we're talking with two recent grads about their hopes, dreams, and concerns for this next chapter in life, along with people who have spent some time out in the workforce, mentors, if you will, who can share insight and perspective that is hard-earned out in the real world. Joining me in studio today, we have Ivory Kendrick, a Kent State University college graduate. Ivory wants to go into public health. Ivory, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Also joining us in studio, we have Dr. Dave Margolius, Director of Public Health for the City of Cleveland. What a coincidence!
So
nice
great
to have you here.
Thank you.
Joining us as well, we have Sophie Frisori, Aurora High School graduate. Sophie wants to become a music therapist working in a pediatric unit. Sophie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And the coincidences just keep on coming. We also have Jessica Tracy with us, a music therapist at the Cleveland Clinic. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Calling in on video, we have Dr. Cecilia Conrad, who has a PhD in economics. She's the founder of Lever for Change, named to Time's 2025 list of the 100 most influential people in philanthropy, and she's giving the commencement address to Oberlin College graduates in 1 week on May 25th. Welcome, Cecilia, to the Sound of Ideas.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
We are too here in the studio. We're excited for it, and we want you to be a part of it as well. If you're in our audience, please give us a call if you have a question or a comment. Maybe you have some advice for graduates. Maybe you have some questions yourself about working in the real world. The number is 866-578-0903. You can also send us an email at soi@ideastream.org, or you can message us on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. And we'll start off today getting to know everyone a little bit. And Ivory, we'll start with you. Tell us, what made you want to go into public health? Do you know specifically what you want to do?
Yeah, originally I was actually a nursing student, and then I took a health policy and management class, and my professor, it was just such an amazing semester that I realized that like public health had me hooked, line and sinker, and then I wanted to really investigate like how policy really affects public health. And so that's where it started. And then ever since then, I've been on the pathway to public health and health policy.
Okay. And you are continuing your education from what I understand.
Yes.
Tell us about your plans there.
So after getting my bachelor's in public health, I'm actually getting two masters, a master's in health policy management and a master's of public administration.
And where will you be doing that?
At good old Kent State.
Okay, so staying in Kent for
Staying
that.
at Kent, yep.
Are you going right into that?
Yes, I've actually already started my last semester.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. So no break for Ivory. Okay.
Never.
All right. Now, Dr. Margolius, tell us, just so we can kind of set the stage for people who may not be familiar, what's the difference between public health and other medical practices?
Yeah, so I mean, the beauty of public health, as Ivory already knows, is that we get to work upstream of illnesses, of chronic illnesses. We get to prevent the stuff that's hurting our community. And so before going into public health, I was a primary care doctor and thought I was pretty far upstream, taking care of population health. But then the opportunity got to prevent folks from smoking in the first place by changing the environment, prevent lead poisoning and that sort of thing. And so public health is more of a macro upstream perspective.
And for you specifically, if there is a typical day, what does a typical workday look like?
There is no typical day. I mean, that's the beauty of the job. And, I have just loved working in public health. So today I'm on Sound of Ideas for the next hour. I'm running a city council meeting after this to get a couple pieces of legislation passed. From there, I'm meeting with our lawyer to discuss a tough contract with the federal government that we're working through. And then meeting with our team that has been housing folks who are living on the street, our Home for Every Neighbor program. So that's just till 12:30.
Mm-hmm. Busy morning.
Yes, but it's typical.
Yeah. So tell us, how much schooling did you go through? We know that Ivory plans to continue with a dual master's. What about for you? What does that look like?
Yeah, I went to undergraduate, majored in biology, took public health classes there, then went to medical school, and fell in love with health policy. Same story as Ivory. Just really wanted to make a larger impact. Did residency training for 3 years, stayed on for an additional kind of junior faculty year, and then came back to Cleveland and fell in love with public health. And so I've always felt, next to this guy doing all his master's degrees, a little undertrained, but that's what I've done.
Okay. Sophie, let's get to know you now. You're interested in a very specific field, music therapy in a pediatric unit. So tell us how you decided on that.
I kind of decided on music therapy. I do music therapy already for these two girls who live in the neighborhood next to mine. And one of them has autism, one of them has cerebral palsy. They're twins. And just seeing how they have grown through music and just developing more of a love through music through that and teaching them and stuff like that has really just inspired me to become a music therapist, because I've always wanted to work with kids, but I also wanted to always work in a job in music because I've been doing music my whole life. So I think just being able to work with kids and also share my love of music with them is just really made me decide that I wanted to do music therapy. So
How did you even become aware that music therapy was a thing?
I wasn't even aware of it at first until the woman that the mom of the kids that I do it for, she reached out to me and she was like, "We do this at the Akron Children's right now. I'd love to see if you would like to get some hands-on experience of it. I think you'd be really good at it." And once I started doing that, I wasn't really aware of what music therapy was like at first, but I just finished my senior internship at Solutions, which is in Macedonia, and I got a closer look at music therapy and working with autistic children and everything like that. So just really, I learned more about it through all of my experiences that I gained. So yeah.
And can you give us just a little picture of what it looks like when you are doing what you're doing now with these young people?
Yeah, so I usually just bring in a bunch of my instruments that I have. I bring in one of the favorites that I have is the steel tongue drum, and a lot of the autistic children I work with love that one. And sometimes I'll play a song on my phone, sometimes I'll sing to them, and I'll just experiment with the different instruments with them, playing songs that they know, like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, or Ring Around the Rosie, stuff like that. And I usually just experiment with a bunch of different songs and play with them. And I could do movement songs as well, clapping your hands and dancing and stuff like that, and really just gets them enriched in the music.
Okay. So you are getting ready to go off to college. Where are you going to college?
I'm going to the University of Cincinnati.
And what do you plan to study there?
I plan on majoring in psychology and minoring in music.
That's not the end of your plan, though. You do plan to continue education after that. So tell us
Yeah.
what that plan is.
Right now I'm planning to go to Cleveland State for graduate school, and I want to do the music therapy equivalency program. So it'll be nice to be back home and close to my family. I chose Cincinnati just because the main reason was because my older sister's there right now, and she's also majoring in psych. So I was I love being with my sister, so I just wanted to stay close to her.
Somebody to kind of let you know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
Someone close that you trust.
Very helpful, yeah.
All right, Jessica, let's hear about your experience as a music therapist. Why did you decide to become a music therapist?
So it is similar to hers. So I've been doing music my entire life as well. And so I, in middle school, was like, what do I want to do with my life? They were having the career fairs, and I knew that I didn't want to do music education, and I for sure didn't want to do performance. I love performing, but it wasn't something I wanted to pursue. So I started looking into music careers that were stable and could allow me to have an emotional depth with other people and allow me to still use what I love to do to connect with others. And that's when I found music therapy. And so in middle school, I decided that was what I was going to do. And then I went to Shenandoah University and got my bachelor's in music therapy there in Virginia.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What does a typical air quotes day look like for you? What kind of clients do you serve?
Yeah. So obviously every single day is different, which is why I chose the career I did, because I love that that ever-changing day. I don't like to have a typical day. So I follow the cardiology unit, the hem-onc oncology units. I follow the NICU, epilepsy, and then the general surge units as well. So, I see patients from the NICU all the way up to 25, 30. And so typically I look at my consult list. So I get consulted by the doctors, by the nurses, and those are for different needs and goal areas that we're looking for. That could be procedural support, that could be coping mechanisms, it could be reducing anxiety. And then I prioritize my patients based off of that. And then I do chart reviews and I go and see my patients. And that could be singing a baby to sleep. That could be helping a patient before they go down for their procedure and getting them relaxed. It could be getting them excited, happy. It's all different things. So. Yeah.
Is there a particular instrument that you use most often? Are you using multiple instruments or using instruments at all?
Yeah, so I have a music cart that I take around. Most often, I probably use the guitar and my voice, of course. But we have all kinds of instruments on my music cart that we utilize and use for different things. It allows the kids to kind of have autonomy over what they want to choose when they see that cart. So we have different percussion instruments. We have drums. We've got ukuleles, all kinds of things, xylophones. Yeah.
Okay. And you said you got a bachelor's degree. Did you have to do any postgraduate work for what you're doing now?
Yeah, so to become a music therapist, you have to pass a board certification exam. So after you do 1,200 hours of training, like direct supervision between practicums and internship, so internship is another 6 months. Then you go and take your CBMT exam, and that's when you get your board certification. And then we just got state licensure as well. So we have a licensure and a certification to become a music therapist.
Okay. Cecilia, we'll bring you into the conversation now. Your organization, Lever for Change, has influenced more than $2.5 billion in grants and supported more than 500 organizations worldwide. So can you tell us about the work you do with Lever for Change?
Yes, Lever for Change is an intermediary. We try to help donors discover really bold ideas that might not find through traditional philanthropic approaches. And so what we do is we work with a donor to help design and manage an open call, which creates a much more equitable and level playing field for particularly community-based organizations, organizations with some unusual or inventive ideas to get their ideas seen and vetted. We impanel lots of experts to help us review those proposals. Everyone gets feedback. A donor makes a grant, but we have all those other great ideas. So we work to get those ideas in front of funders. So what we try to do is essentially address the matching needs in the philanthropic sector.
And Cecilia, you have been impactful here in Northeast Ohio. You have helped match more than $7 million in funding for Cleveland and Ohio-based organizations. Can you tell us about the road that got you here? Was this your plan to end up here? You've worked in a lot of different capacities over time.
That's true. And it's really, I think, important to note that we all start with certain plans. I did decide to be an economist in middle school. When I was in middle school, it was 1968. It was a time not unlike the time we're in now, where lots of things were changing and being turned over. And I was fascinated by I was watching on television news and so on. And I thought, I want to do something that really is going to help change the world. But I also loved math. And I discovered economics watching some economists who were in an international monetary meeting. And I thought, well, that's an interesting career, and you get to travel. So I set that as my goal. I went to college, majored in economics at Wellesley College, and then went to graduate school in economics. And halfway through graduate school, said, I don't know why I'm here. I've sort of been on this path, and I haven't asked some important questions. So I took some time off and then came back, got my PhD, and then started on a traditional academic path: assistant professor, get promoted to associate professor, get promoted to full professor, then moved into an administrative role, still in higher ed, mostly at liberal arts colleges. And then I reached a point in my life not that long ago. I've actually been in philanthropy for only 14 years, where I said, I want to do something else. I want to learn something new. And that's what led me into philanthropy. First, I came to MacArthur to run the MacArthur Fellows Program, and then eventually it led to starting this completely new enterprise. So I've become kind of an entrepreneur now.
A lot of different roads take you to where you end up being. Great reminder there. Thank you for that, Cecilia. If you're just joining us here on The Sound of Ideas, we are talking about graduation, high school and college graduation. It's the season for that. We have two new grads with us, one from high school, one from college, and we have a panel of people who have been in the workforce for a little bit to share some insight and perspective connected to the fields that they're interested in. If you have a comment or a question, maybe you have some advice for graduates in general, maybe you have some questions, maybe you're a new graduate yourself, you can give us a call at 866-578-0903. You can also send us an email at soi@ideastream.org or send us a note on Instagram. We're at The Sound of Ideas. Now, Cecilia was just bringing up economics. So we're going to start talking about the money piece here a little bit. So let me give you a little bit of information about kind of the averages of what it looks like when people are funding their college education. So about 2 million students earn bachelor's degrees every year. That's according to the National Center for Education Statistics. And 60% of those students will have education loans. Average balance is around $30,000. That's according to analysis by higher education expert Mark Kantrowitz. So let's start there. Let's ask our graduates their experience and their plans. Ivory, is that something that you'll be dealing with, is student loan debt?
No, as soon as I started in high school, I remember applying for every single scholarship I got. So freshman year, I got pretty much a full ride just based off of the scholarships that I applied for. And then when I got to college, I ended up doing so much leadership that I was getting like extra funding through that. So I do not have that much student loan debt, especially considering like I don't have any kind of like outside support. So I'm lucky in that aspect, but I am thankful to say that I do not have that much student loan debt.
That is wonderful, and I'm very happy for you for that.
Thank
Is
you.
that something that will continue through your master's education?
We'll see, depending if I get my GA ship. But even if it doesn't work out, I'll always make a way. You know what I mean? I'm a lifelong learner, so I'll make a way to learn something.
Okay. Sophie, for you, what's your plan for funding your education?
I'm lucky enough that my parents are going to be paying for my college, which is really great. But I also have a lot of scholarships that I applied for and was able to get through various things such as like essay contests and through my school, like local scholarships and stuff like that. We actually just had our scholarship night on Thursday. And so I'm going to be able to use some of those scholarships for college as well.
Okay. And for our mentors who are here in studio with us, Jessica, Dr. Margolius, did you graduate with student loan debt? Jessica?
I did, yes. I had half of my tuition paid through my scholarship. And then I had some federal loans that I'm still paying off. And so that does take up a pretty major portion of my salary that I make.
Do you have advice for new graduates who might be dealing with
Yeah.
with the same situation?
Yeah, exactly what they did. Like, definitely apply for the scholarships. I was 16 when I graduated from high school, so I was pretty young, and I went to college right after that. And I went, I was on campus. I didn't really understand loans, so I pulled out a personal loan, not really understanding, what's a fixed interest rate, what's an interest rate that changes. And so I think that it became challenging to figure out, oh, now I only have a grace period of 9 months and I don't even have a job yet. How am I going to pay these loans off? So I think definitely educating yourself and not just trusting that the system has you, because it sometimes doesn't. So definitely the scholarships and the work that you guys did now is super, super important, and it's gonna be beneficial for you guys. Yeah.
And just to back that up a bit, Jessica, how long have you been out of college?
3 years now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're still paying on student loans?
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
been out of college since 2006. I'm still paying on student loans. I did go to law school after that. I did go back to school and graduate with my master's in journalism in 2016. But, 10 years post that, I am still paying on student loans myself as well. So that is something that can happen. Dr. Mongolius, did you have student loans when you graduated?
I'm like Sophie. I was really lucky. My parents helped for everything, and trying to do the same for my kids now. But it's like, what college is going to cost in 2034 is a lot of money. But I'm going to my 20-year college reunion also this weekend. So graduated in 2006.
Oh, congratulations to that. Catch up with everyone, see how everyone's doing.
Sure.
Yeah, see some familiar faces for sure. Cecilia, I want to ask you about this. When you talk about being in the philanthropy space and people being community minded, do you have any advice for students who are graduating with student loan debt but do still want to be impactful in their communities?
Yes, and so there are a couple things. One is, as the other panelists have mentioned, look for not just scholarships, but there are some programs, some of them highly localized, that help to relieve student loan debt. More and more, some companies are looking at that, particularly when people are being asked to do work that is socially impactful. Sometimes that comes at a lower pay point than you might get at a commercial enterprise. But the other thing that Jessica kind of highlighted is make sure that you invest in getting financially literate. I think so many times young people have not had that experience of having to understand just how the financial world works, what the fixed rates are, variable rates, what the different opportunities are. And there are now some platforms that will help you navigate and think about how to rearrange student debt, how to rearrange your loans, explore those to sort of, you can make it something that's a manageable burden.
All right, now let's shift from talking to the payment of debt to the earning of income, which is necessary for the payment of that student loan debt. Dr. Margolius and Jessica, I'll ask each of you if you can share a bit about salary ranges that might be expected in these fields. And we'll start with you, Dr. Margolius, what someone working in public health might expect to make when they start, and then also when they reach their maximum earning potential.
Sure. Yeah. So our entry level positions right now pay salary of $40,000 to $60,000 annually, and those are city jobs. So they come with pension, full benefits, vacation and sick time, opportunity to earn overtime and compensation time. So we've been working hard to raise those rates, the whole city of Cleveland, over time. And then maximum, I think that really I'm going to say the sky's the limit as far as government salaries go. There are folks who have worked in the health department starting as an entry-level health inspector and gotten to director-level positions. And so we're really proud of those folks within the team that are able to grow. And so I think that what's really important for new grads coming out is your first job isn't your last job. And so, get in the door, prove that you can do the work, get that experience, and really the sky's the limit.
Does that sound in line with what you were expecting, Ivory? Have you had any chance to give some thought to what you hope to make or need to make in your journey?
Yeah, so as of right now, I'm working at a internship at Trailhead Foundation. So I'll be starting in the next couple of weeks. So I just finished up working for a nonprofit, just kind of part-time. But that is exactly kind of what I thought. I did a couple of like research projects for my classes about, intro level like public health jobs, and it really does range just depending on where you're at. Like in a bigger city like Cleveland, it is a lot more. But if you go into like a smaller county like Pickaway County or something like that, it might be just a little bit less. But it just depends. So I that is about where I expected, and you gotta work from down up. So and, make your way. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jessica, how about for you? What can you tell us about working in music therapy, maybe what people can expect entry level and then hope to rise to?
Yeah, so typically for like a private practice or anything that's in like school settings, it's going to be kind of equivalent to like a teacher salary. In private practices, sometimes it can range from 40 or 35 to probably like 60. I do believe that we are a pretty underpaid field. Anything kind of in the expressive arts is a struggle to get funding for. So even like the highest paying is probably in the medical field, and that sits around at like the mid 50s. The way to work yourself up is people who work in universities and do like teaching, or if they become managers for those places, or if they become the owners for those private practices. But besides that, it's pretty tricky to get much higher than that. And I think most people kind of know that going into the field. I don't think that majority of us have gone into this field for the money. It's for the passion. Okay. So yeah, I think it's important that we acknowledge that we like deserve pay, but also acknowledge that like, I know that why I went into this was because I just love it. And that sometimes is enough, to stay in it. So.
And that higher number you were talking about, that 50 to 60, is that after you've been working in the field for a while? Is that after spending just maybe, a year or two in, just so we know time frame wise?
Yeah, I mean, that could be a few years in. I think at like bigger hospitals, you're going to get start at that higher range. And then, with like the merit raises and everything, and just with like inflation, slowly your salary will start to go up a little bit more too.
Okay.
But yeah.
Sophie, is that surprising to you? Is that what you were expecting?
That is pretty much what I was expecting. Yeah, I agree with Jessica. Like, I think just the passion in general really just is what like drives me to want to do something like this. Like, I just have such a passion for music and working with children, and like I've done so much research, and like I know coming into it, like that's the salary I was expecting. But like it's just the passion that drives me really.
Okay. Well, let's talk about what comes with this in terms of more education. So I know there's more education ahead for both Sophie and Ivory. So not an immediate concern for you, but you do have to get a job in order to be paid that income. And the job market is tough right now. A little bit of information about that. Unemployment for people between the ages of 16 to 24 was at 10.4% in September. Now that is more than double the overall unemployment rate. So what we can see here is that it's a particularly tough job market for younger people who are getting into these entry-level positions. So Ivory, I'll start with you. Does that concern you at all, the job market right now with less entry-level positions?
I mean, it does, but at the same time, I tried to make myself appealing when I was in college, of like doing a lot of leadership positions and growing those skills and those experiences that would make me look like a potential, and a potential employee for, employers. And I think that is a big thing that we need to start doing, especially with the job market getting harder and harder, because you're going to be going against all these people who have the same exact degree as you. So you have to stand out. And one of the ways that I tried standing out is, like I said, doing leadership and doing, these different events on my campus and working with local partners that I can put on my resume to make me stand out. And I think the more we see the unemployment rate rise, we're going to have to see more and more graduates like me, like having to do a little bit more on top of their studies just to get ahead.
How about for you, Sophie? I know you have a whole college education ahead of you, and then your plan for a master's plan. But are you concerned at all about the current job market?
Yeah, I mean, right now I work 4 jobs actually, but they're mainly like working with like children. I do music therapy as well. So I can't say that I'm too worried about it. I think after I come out of college, I'm like kind of going back to what he said, like finding a job with other people who are in the same field as you, you really have to stand out. And I think that's very important with all the leadership and everything that you can do. So I think coming out of college, maybe I'm a little bit more concerned, especially because I want to go into somewhere like working in a hospital like Jessica does. So finding a job in a hospital would be like my biggest concern. I think that's going to be like the hardest part about this. But I think no matter where I end up, as long as I'm doing music and like working with children, I think I'll be happy with wherever I am.
Let's talk about that standing out piece to help students that are motivated get into these job positions. Dr. Margolius, what do you think a young person can do to stand out when applying for a public health position?
Yeah, I'm already trying to recruit Ivory over here. We're going to be talking after the show. We're going to get him up to Cleveland. But, I think the number one thing that stands out for Sophie and Ivory is their passion for this work. And that will come through in your application and your cover letter. Sometimes there will be kind of a question and answer section on the application. Passion, experience helps, but we're not looking for like years of experience. What we're looking for is experience being responsive to emails, being able to go into meetings, run meetings, being able to get something done, being on the front line, whatever that is. And so just kind of showing that you can show up to a previous role and stick with something is a big deal. But number one is passion, and you both have it. And so you're going to be doing great.
Jessica, you're nodding. Anything you would add for someone specifically looking into music therapy to get that second interview, get that job potentially?
I think that you can have a perfect resume and have all these beautiful things, and it helps 100%. And also, I think that your personality and the way that you present and the way that you show up is going to speak even louder. I know I've sat on a few interviews, and I've seen people who, nerves get in the way, different things get in the way, but I think that you can feel passion and you can sense it. And so I think that is going to get you further. And so, yeah.
Cecilia, now you're the former managing director of the MacArthur Foundation, as you mentioned, and you led the MacArthur Fellows Program. That's been called the Genius Grant. And in doing so, you helped identify exceptionally creative people whose work showed strong potential for future impact. So I'd like to ask you, do you have any general tips for young people who are looking for work right now to try to stand out, get the interview, get the job they're applying for?
And I'll just add, I just finished 4 searches where the candidates were incredibly impressive. And so I can speak from that experience too. I think the first thing that's already been noted, the passion. You hear the passion in the voices that we have here today. If you're passionate, it excites the potential employer. It also it makes you more productive when you get to the workforce. And that's another important part. It's not just getting the job. It's getting a job that you love and holding on to it. The second thing I'll note is that we are always looking, and we've seen this with the fellows, lifelong learners. I think Isaac mentioned this earlier, the people who have the ability to learn new things, because none of us at the moment are going to be able to predict 100% what jobs will look like even 4 years from now with the way that technology, the pace of technological change that's happening. And so when I'm hiring people, I'm looking for people who've shown the ability to pivot, who've shown that they can learn across disciplines. So the sort of cross-disciplinarity that I've heard in this conversation is exciting, and who also have a slight willingness to take some risk. And I think that's an important factor that we've seen when we look at the MacArthur Fellows. They are people who've stepped into spaces where maybe they might be uncomfortable because it's not a field that they've been deeply versed in, but they're able to transfer knowledge from one field to the other, see the connections, and then come up with really creative ideas.
Cecilia, what you just said there about not knowing what the workforce might look like in the future is a perfect segue to let people know what we'll be talking about when we come back from a quick break as we talk with new graduates here today and mentors in their respective fields and also in the workforce in general. We'll be talking about some challenges coming up. We will touch on artificial intelligence and what that will mean for the work industry. If you want to give us a call and be a part of this conversation, the number is 866-578-0903. You can email us at soi@ideastream.org or send us a note on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. We'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation about hopes, dreams, and concerns for new graduates in the class of 2026. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Sound of Ideas on IdeaStream Public Media. I'm Stephanie Haney. Today we are talking with members of the class of 2026, both a high school graduate and a college graduate, about hopes, dreams, and concerns for the future. We have a panel with us of mentors, if you will, and we're continuing that conversation now. If you want to be a part of it, the number is 866-578-0903. You can also send us an email at soi@ideastream.org, or you can send us a message on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. And just a reminder for anyone who may be just joining us now, our guests in studio today are Ivory Kendrick, a college graduate at Kent State University who wants to go into public health. We also have Dr. David Margolius, the Director of Public Health for the City of Cleveland, with us. We have Sophie Frisore, high school graduate from Aurora High School, who wants to become a music therapist working in a pediatric unit. Jessica Tracy is with us here in studio, a music therapist working at the Cleveland Clinic. And we have Cecilia Conrad, who has a PhD in economics and is the founder of Lever for Change, with us on a video call. So we do appreciate you being a part of the conversation. Please chime in if you would like to. Now, before the break, we were talking about how the workforce can shift, and we might not know what the workforce will look like in the future. There was a video that was making the rounds on social media recently. It was from the commencement speech at the University of Central Florida. And in that speech, the speaker was praising artificial intelligence, calling it the next revolution in the workforce. And when that happened, the crowd erupted in boos. People were not happy about it at that particular university. It was the humanities ceremony that was happening there. Then the speaker went on to say, 10 years ago, this was not a factor. And then the crowd erupted in cheers. So I want to get a sense here from Sophie and Ivory. And Sophie, I'll start with you. How are you feeling about artificial intelligence and the use in the workplace?
Yeah, so right now, obviously, like throughout my experience in high school, there's been a lot, like throughout the past few years, AI is definitely like ramped up a little bit, especially in like more schoolwork. Like my teachers use it, my classmates use it. I've worked very closely with AI. I worked for my dad over the summer, and we worked very closely with AI, and we learned about the dangers of it and how it can be helpful, how it can be harmful. My personal view on it, I think although it does have its benefits, I think it really is damaging, and I think it kind of, at a young age like this, like obviously I'm only 17, and especially with younger high school students, I think it can really damage like the way that we learn, and it doesn't make people like eager to learn anymore, is what I've noticed, even in my own classmates. Like it doesn't make them eager to learn, eager to try new things, because they're like, oh, I'll just plug it into AI and it'll do it for me. So I think that the use of artificial intelligence really diminishes like the creative aspect of how we do our work, and that's something that concerns me going into like the workplace, you know. I just don't want the creative aspect to be eliminated due to the use of AI.
What do you think, Ivory? How are you feeling about it?
I've had this conversation so many times with my girlfriend and so many other people on campus, but I truly think that I understand the use of AI and how it can help in the workforce, but I just don't think we're there yet. You know what I mean? Like I believe that AI will eventually revolutionize everything that we do, but it's not to that point yet. Until we can use it without, diminishing resources, until we can use it without having issues come up in what it writes, I don't think we're there yet. Because at the end of the day, like if we had AI that worked perfectly, how much like clerical work that it would take off a doctor's hands, how much, assistance it would help with diagnosing patients and stuff like that. But as of right now, it's just not there yet. But yet we're putting a lot of our trust into this, machine that, it's not 100% proof yet. And I think eventually in the future, once it gets, once they kind of work out the kinks and everything, I think eventually it'll help. But we're just not there yet, and I don't think I truly don't think that we're ready to implement it into the workforce as of yet, just because there's so many things that could go wrong.
Well, let's find out what's happening in the workforce right now. Dr. Margolius, in your experience, is AI being used in public health here in Northeast Ohio?
Not really. No, I work for government, right? And so it's going to be hard for us to adopt new technology just because of the privacy concerns and kind of the speed at which things go with all the different safeguards. And so we've looked at artificial intelligence to help us process some forms. But I don't see it as replacing our folks. I mean, I think one of the things that we learned during COVID was that when social isolation went up, so did a lot of bad health outcomes. And so humans interacting with humans is for public health and serving patients is always going to be a really important part of that work.
How about in music therapy, Jessica? Is it being used right now in your practice?
It's not being used in my own practice personally. I have seen it being used in like some of our from other physicians or other care workers for like their narratives that they write in the medical charts. That does make me a little bit nervous sometimes, just because I think that using your own critical thinking skills and your own firsthand experience is really important when we're talking about our patients. And especially in the medical charts, the way that you view your patient is oftentimes shifted or changes based on what you read in those charts. So I think it's really important that you use your own words and your own thoughts when you're writing out these charts. One of my concerns too with AI is the use of therapists for like with artificial intelligence. I think that, the training that we undergo and the training that counselors, professional counselors undergo cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. So I think, using it as a resource could potentially, have its benefits, right? So I think that the students spoke really well on like kind of that balance of using it to help support. We're not there yet, right? We can't completely take over fields of people's careers and replace it with artificial intelligence.
Cecilia, what would you tell a young person concerned about artificial intelligence disrupting potential opportunities that might have been more prominent for new graduates in the past?
Well, first I'll just state that artificial intelligence is in place in workplaces of all types all around the country. So I think there's a recognition that having some literacy about AI is going to be a factor in employment decisions because people want that skill set, someone who understands how to critically engage with AI tools. This goes to something that I think Jessica said about critical thinking skills. My impression so far, and I've been working with AI kind of as a team member. I use it to help me edit. I use it to help put together, do research for me. But as Ivory noted, it's not perfect, and so you need someone who has the critical reading, critical thinking skills we normally associate with a well-rounded liberal arts education, which has gotten a bad name in the past, but now I think is a really important ingredient for being successful in the modern workplace where AI is really kind of a team member. We use it to augment the work that we do. It's not really replacing the work we do. I've seen some studies where it's being used in areas where the simple task of responding to a customer's needs are being done by an AI agent, but that then if there's a more complicated task, it's graduated up to a human being. I think we'll see that pattern for a while, but it's important to think about what does it substitute for, what does it augment, and how can you be ready to use it?
We have a call now from Bob in Cleveland. Bob, welcome to the Sound of Ideas. Please share your comments and your questions.
Hello, I work at John Carroll University helping young people get ready for the workplace and find jobs. And 3 pieces of advice that I would have for anybody looking for jobs is network, network, network. People in the profession you're interested in, do informational interviews to learn about them, make connections. Second is to make your job search a project plan. Have 3, plan A, B, and C. The job market is a little bit tighter, so it behooves to have multiple channels to look for opportunities in this marketplace. And 3, we need to embrace AI. It is changing in the workplace everywhere. It will continue to do so. So any way that we can develop our own additional skills, maybe take some LinkedIn courses to learn a few tools yourself will be very helpful. Great topic today on the show.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for calling in and for sharing the insight. Something that Bob mentioned there was networking, and I'm going to ask this question of our mentors here is how crucial was that for you in getting where you are now? Jessica, I'll start with you. Networking or was it luck? Did you know someone? How did it work for you?
I think partially it was luck. And also, the music therapy field is so small that knowing people is like so, so important. It just so happened that the time I finished my internship was the time that the position had opened. So I think I did get really lucky. And also, my manager knew my professors, and I had a really good rapport with my professors. The last music therapist went to the same university that I did. So, like, we knew each other through that. So, like, I do think that I have gotten to know a lot of the music therapists in Ohio, a lot of the music therapists in Virginia, a lot of the music therapists in Michigan. So like networking in that way, I think did kind of give me a leg up when I was interviewing. It's like, oh, we have relatability. Oh, I know that person. Oh, we did this work together. We did this research. So it helps, 100% helps.
How about for you, Dr. Margolius?
Yeah, I think it helps too. I think the biggest thing with networking is just showing up. And so there are so many different events that are not just public health in Cleveland, but kind of thinking about the future of Cleveland and the work we're doing. And so I think just showing up, meeting folks, hanging out with folks before and afterwards does make a difference.
Cecilia, what do you think about that? What would you tell someone who might be a little more introverted that also needs to get out there and do that networking? How crucial is that, and any tips to get it done?
One of the things that I have noted about my career is that I've made connections through times when I was volunteering. Volunteering both in terms of professional roles, volunteering when I was in college. And I think that's sometimes a way for someone who doesn't want to go to a networking event and have to go up to strangers and introduce yourself, can get to know other people in a format that is easier because you're all working on a common task. So I would look for those opportunities that will give you interactions with people who might be working in the field you're interested in.
Ivory, let me ask you how you think your peers are doing with some of the interpersonal skills that might be required for networking. Like the phrase soft skills comes to mind.
Yeah, it's really hard because for me, I really wanted to get into leadership as soon as I started college. But a lot of the people that I went to college with who weren't really in that leadership sphere, they just wanted to get their degree and go home. Like realistically, they just wanted to come to their classes, finish their 4 years or finish earlier. And it's really hard. Like I know one of my buddies who we graduated at the same time. He finished a year or two earlier. And he didn't have any connections. Like he didn't know what he was going to do. He figured he would just work as an accountant. He got a business degree. So he just figured he'd work as an accountant, and he didn't really know anybody within either the Kent sphere or locally for that matter. Like he ended up just talking to his dad, and he ended up getting a job through that. And so I think having those soft skills are super important because it branches yourself out and getting to meet all these different people and seeing all these different avenues that you can go down, because not everyone has a linear path. Sometimes people like me start out as nursing and then they end up being the director of, So it's really important to really branch out and see all these people who've either gone down your path or gone down a similar path and see what kind of lane you could fall into.
Cecilia, what do you think are the most important soft skills for the class of 2026? And do you have any advice on refining those?
The first important soft skill, I think, has already been mentioned earlier, and that's showing up, being there when you're expected to. The second is being proactive. It's important not to bring your boss problems without suggestions for solutions. Thinking about what is it that I can do to advance the workplace is one way of getting seen. So that's another important soft skill. The ability to navigate difference. You're going to be in workplaces that are diverse, and being able to deal with different personalities, people who've had different life experience than you have, is another important soft skill that's going to pay off in the future, because the human connections become increasingly important as we see some of these new technologies emerge.
Now, we have talked a lot about work and money and those kinds of things, but we are all whole people here today. So let's talk a little bit about some of the personal things that might come into play over the years as we kind of wrap up our last few minutes here. So, Sophie, outside of the workplace, what are you hoping for in your life in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'm just kind of hoping I'm very close with my sisters, and so that's why mainly I chose Cincinnati to be with my sister. I have an older and a younger sister. I really just hope to stay close to them no matter where I go, because my sisters have always been some of my best friends, I consider them. Within the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully I want to move out of Ohio, hopefully. I don't like the cold weather here. It's not my thing. So
It's cold sometimes.
Oh yeah. So hopefully I end up moving somewhere warm within the next few years. And I want to be able to become a homeowner, be financially independent, like all of those kind of things. Yeah.
Ivory, have you given any thought to what you hope for in the next 5 to 10 years outside of work?
I'm trying to think. Well, first get my 2 masters. Get my 2 masters. I hope to do a lot more community work. Try to empower people to, to improve like our communities that we have, especially like for me being from Ravenna, Ohio, and then moving to Kent, trying to connect with more people on the ground level, helping them out. And I don't know, my friends keep telling me to run for office, so maybe I'll do that eventually. But I don't know. I think wherever the world takes me, I'll be happy there as long as I keep following my passion.
Whatever you do just gets you to the next right thing. I think we're always looking for the next yes. That's kind of how I've looked at it over time is, okay, you do things as long as they feel right. Then when it doesn't feel right, maybe you look for the next thing that feels right. Dr. Margolius, do you have any advice for our new graduates about work-life balance and maintaining your personal life?
Yeah, I think we've talked about passion, and passion for the work is so important, and passion outside of work is important too. And so, finding folks who believe in what you believe in, who are trying to make a difference in this world, I think the opportunities are limitless.
Jessica, any advice for work-life balance for our new grads?
Yeah, I think that, your job is important, your passion's important, but that's not everything. I have worked really hard to not keep my identity just in music therapy. I have a life outside of it. At the end of the day, it's still a 9 to 5 job. When I leave my job, I enjoy things outside of that, like hiking and spending time with my cats and doing my crafts. So I think it's really important to keep that balance and to understand that you have life outside of work as well. So it's important to maintain that and to keep that as well.
The difference between working to live and living to work.
Yes.
Your job is what you do. It is not who you are. That
And
whole
it's hard when you
mentality.
mix passion and work together. That can be it's hard to sometimes set those boundaries for yourself, but it's how you stay in the field, it's how you don't burn out, it's how you maintain your life. So I think it's important.
Cecilia, anything that you would like to add there about work-life balance for our new graduates?
Yes, when I look back, what brings me most joy, what I am most proud of, are the ways in which I've been able to help uplift, support friends, family, and creative people and my students. It kind of crisscrosses work life for me, but it highlights something that uh, Ivory said about wanting to help others as part of that picture. One of the pieces of advice I'm going to give to the graduates is that if you get to be in the place or the room where it happens, borrowing from Hamilton, you should you should make sure you hold that door open so other people can join you in that room and contribute to creating really great ideas for the future, and that will bring you joy at the end of the day.
Yeah, just a little note on work-life balance from myself. I ended up marrying the man that I was working with at my most previous job. So, you figure it out. You find out what feels right and you just go with it, right? So I want to ask our new graduates here before we wrap things up, how are you feeling after the conversations that we've had today and how you're feeling looking ahead to the future? Sophie?
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling more educated about the music therapy field in general, and I'm feeling like a bit more confident about the way that I approach college and life after college and everything like that. Like I said before, I am gonna miss like being so close to my sisters and everything like that. That's really like the main thing that's gonna suck the most about leaving high school, I guess, because I'm still like gonna leave my younger sister behind, but I'll be with my older sister. And I think I'm just more excited to embark on this like new journey for me. I'm always like so hopeful for like what the future has, and I know that I'm bigger beyond high school, and so I'm just excited to see what happens next.
What do you think the odds are that your younger sister ends up at the University of Cincinnati?
She already said she's not going to. She's got her sights set on a different one, but yeah, she said I'm not going to Cincinnati. I was like, okay.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll be excited to see what happens for you next. And Ivory,
you.
how are you feeling after the conversation today?
I think you hit it on the head with saying, hopeful, and like we never know what the future is going to hold, but, we gotta keep our hope and, we gotta just do what we think is right. And if we continue to keep, feeling our gut and, letting our passion drive us and relying on our friends and family, I think no matter what, we'll figure it out.
All right. I want to thank our panel for participating today. Our new graduates, Ivory Kendrick from Kent State University. Thank you, Ivory.
First, thank you for having me.
Sophie Frisori from Aurora High School heading to the University of Cincinnati. Thank you,
Yes.
Sophie.
Thank you so much.
Here in studio, Jessica Tracy, a music therapist at the Cleveland Clinic. Thank you, Jessica.
Of course, it was a pleasure.
And we have Dr. David Margolius, Director of Public Health for the City of Cleveland. Thank you, Dr. Margolius.
Thank you.
On our video call, Dr. Cecilia Conrad with a PhD in economics, the founder of Lever for Change, and giving the commencement address to Oberlin College graduates in 1 week on May 25th. Thank you so much, Cecilia.
Thank you.
If you missed any part of today's show, you can hear a rebroadcast tonight at 9 on 89.7 WKSU, and you can find every episode of The Sound of Ideas wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. To get the last word on today's topics, email us at soi@ideastream.org or find us on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. On Friday, IdeaStream executive editor Mike McIntyre shared his annual crowdsourced commencement speech that is linked on today's show page at ideastream.org/SOI. You can also find it on YouTube and Instagram. My favorite piece of advice is don't get too high on the highs or too low on the lows. Things are rarely as great as you make them out to be, and even more rarely as bad as you make them out to be. Tomorrow on The Sound of Ideas, we'll be getting an update on the West Side Market, as it's been 2 years since it's been operated by a nonprofit organization, so see you there. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thanks for keeping the conversation going. We'll see you back here tomorrow on The Sound of Ideas.